Whatever, man. This game blows. Let's play a real video game. What kind of game are we talking? I'm talking Sonic Advance 2, baby. Oh yeah. Now this is a video game. Rescuing the princess is for friendly friends. Sonic Advance 2 is a game where you hold right to win the game. You occasionally do other things like press the A button or have the game expect you to know when to do some bullshitly niche mechanic out of nowhere in the 5th zone, but even then you're still more or less holding right all the while. There isn't anything inherently wrong with this. In fact, it's encouraged by each of the level's design. Notably, every level in Sonic Advance 2 goes by very quickly, simply by holding right as the game leads the player down a very fun and direct path. From an outside perspective, this previous sentence probably sounds like the dumbest sentence ever written. Of course you beat the level by holding right. It's a goddamn two-dimensional platforming game about going fast, for crying out loud. If you were to go slow, then what the hell would be the point? But think about it. When have you ever gone left? To the left in a 2D Sonic game for a majority of the stage. In a not very fun Marble Zone Act 2, that's when. So yes, you really only need to hold right to beat Sonic Advance 2. But isn't that inherently what you're doing in every Sonic game anyway? And if the game is going to give you speed, it needs to make sure that the speed feels good and doesn't stop abruptly, which Sonic Advance 2 rarely ever does. Playing as Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, Cream, or even the secret character Amy, the player is whipped through a roller coaster of zones, with each stage introducing something new to keep them going quickly. Leaf Forest uses gigantic loop-de-loops, Music Plant has giant sets of parallel piano keys, and Sky Canyon is littered with various fans and windmills. Course design choices such as these keep the player moving from one checkpoint to the next, all while ensuring that traveling through each zone never feels especially viscous. You feel fast. There's not really a better way to put it. There's even this mechanic that is present when the player has sustained enough movement in a direction for a long enough period of time called Boost Mode. As its name implies, this allows the player character to move literally so fast that they leave after images. It's cool as hell. Holding right implies that you will eventually go fast, and going fast in a Sonic game is fun. And if we believe in the commutative logic of these two statements, then holding right is fun. Sonic Advance 1 is too slow. It valiantly tries to reintroduce a lot of the platforming mechanics and level design present in the original Sonic the Hedgehog, but it simply doesn't work for me. The game can be unbearably slow at times, and the Game Boy Advance screen does it no favors. Good luck trying to figure out where the hell the next jump in Egg Rocket Zone is. Sonic Advance 3 attempts to combine the aspects of Advance 1 and Advance 2 into a single game, but its level design is arguably worse. Route 99 is a crime against level design, with its fast-paced sections leading immediately into devilishly placed enemies or instant death-crushing blocks. And it's the first zone in the game. And by the time the player gets to Chaos Angel, the last zone in the game has conditioned them to move very quickly while holding a certain direction, inevitably leading to their demise at the start of the first act with the falling platform section, for example. Meanwhile, Sonic Advance 2 is consistent with what it's trying to be, a fast-paced platformer with fewer precise platforming sections in favor of fast-paced action moments. The only ass-pull Sonic Advance 2 pulls is that previously referenced spot in Sky Canyon Act 1, but even then, the momentum of the required mechanic still keeps the player moving at a breakneck pace. I'm not gonna say that otherwise instant death section of Sky Canyon Act 1 isn't bullshit, it absolutely is. And to be honest, Sky Canyon Act 1 is kind of a bullshit level all around. My favorite bullshit level, but still awful all the same. It's got this whole clouds covering the bottom of the screen so you can't see the platform or know exactly what's beneath you thing going on. And it's a real hassle to manage when you're ascending the bounding platforming tower section at the end of Act 2. And the boss has these like 2 different attacks that instantly kill you if you get slapped, which to me is incredibly obnoxious. But honestly, it's easily the most memorable zone in this game for these reasons. That little section of knowing the trick mechanic, or knowing that I can chain bounce off these platforms in a certain way to keep my momentum with these fans, or how I have to not, in fact, jump off the upside down section every time lest I die again. Even then, Sky Canyon is one of those incredibly memorable levels because of how cool it is to beat while going quickly. I'd even argue that the fun in Sky Canyon comes from the satisfaction of clearing the zone at a breakneck pace, thanks to the reflective, speed-welcoming level design. And that's the thing about Sonic Advance 2 overall. Despite its simplicity in mechanics and player interaction, it's ultimately very fun. It's fun to blast through Hot Crater and get 100 rings in under a minute simply by following the inherent path laid out by the designers. It's fun to zoom up and down the seizure-inducing slopes of Techno Base. It's fun to let the gravity mechanics of Egg Utopia carry the player from one platform to the next. The only true portion of the game that isn't fun, in my eyes, is some of the musical instrument obstacles that slow down the gameplay in Music Plant, and the ridiculously anti-concept final boss, though the latter is a conversation for another time. Simple mechanics can be fun if the level design flows around said mechanics, and I believe this applies to approximately 90% of Sonic Advance 2. That number I just pulled out of my ass, but it's a number. I asked some people in a game dev server I'm in about this balance of oversimple controls and gameplay versus player enjoyment. And I got some interesting responses, with one that I really found compelling.
Games are mainly about having fun and entertaining the player. As long as that is fulfilled, I don't think it matters how simple it is.
Complicated platforming mechanics can be an absolutely lovely time when the player eventually figures them out. I think of these mechanically rich action platforming games that are hard but fair, like Celeste and Metroid Dread. And if you haven't seen my video on Metroid Dread, you should go check it out. I've included a tag in the top corner. They don't expect the player to know the complicated movements they theoretically have access to from the very start of the game. With Celeste in particular, there are plenty of movements like ultras, wave dashes, and even demo dashes that are clearly doable by a knowledgeable player at the very start of the game, without the game even teaching them. These fast-paced movements are also incredibly fun to execute, but in contrast to Sonic Advance 2, they require extensive practice. While pulling off a reverse extended hyper can be incredibly satisfying in Celeste, for some, the grind to master this movement is decidedly not fun. In comparison, Advance 2's most difficult mechanic for new players to grasp is the trick movement, which simply involves pressing the right shoulder button R and a direction on the D-pad. Decidedly less complicated. This simplicity, of course, raises a new question. Is there any challenge in this game that isn't a totally unfair surprise? Truthfully, the answer to me is no. At least not in the levels themselves most of the time. The final zones of the game, Techno Base and Egg Utopia, do feature parts that involve quick reactions in order to ensure that when the player is moving quickly to the right, they're also not moving quickly downwards towards their demise. But even then, these sections are pretty well telegraphed by the game, with Techno Base featuring cyan hexagons, and Egg Utopia having a space background to signify when the player is above bottomless pits. The true challenge comes in some later bosses, mainly Egg Go Round and its terrible RNG-based attacks. Not the Sky Canyon boss, the Techno Base boss. I hate that boss more than the Sky Canyon boss, can you believe that? Again, my disdain for this boss is another video for another time, but the difficulty from it, hilariously, comes from knowing when to not hold right. I don't know, I just like Sonic Advance 2, and people keep talking about how Advance 1 is better for the platforming and Advance 3 is better for the zones. But Advance 2 is the most fun to me because I can just pick it up and play and go really fast and get that rush of dopamine that I really don't get from Advance 1 because it tries to be a platformer with too small of a screen, and Advance 3, whose level design wants me to go fast, but then it doesn't. Advance 2 at least is consistent, even if again, the screen is very small so sometimes you don't know where you're landing. At least the game is designed around going fast, and I really like that. So yes, you really only need to hold right to beat Sonic Advance 2, but is that a bad thing? The game is still very fun despite the mechanical simplicity. Advance 2 is not necessarily a hard game, but it really isn't trying to be either. Rather, it is trying to be a game where the player can recklessly abandon any speed limits and rollercoaster through a series of incredibly appropriately designed levels. They do go by quickly, yes, but they happen to be memorable excursions that have their own identities through the franchise. Advance 2 is simple enough to pick up and play through in a short burst, while still being very fun to play. And to quote a man who knows a lot about video games,
"If it's not fun, why bother?"
Hey, wow, thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. If you enjoyed this, please, if you feel so inclined, leave a like, subscribe, definitely comment how you feel about the Sonic Advance trilogy. Have you played it? If you have, did you like it? If you haven't played it, do you think you might try it out? They're great games, would recommend them. Sonic Advance 2 is clearly my favorite. If you want to catch more of me, I'll be making more of these video essays over however long indefinitely. I have a lot to say, I like saying it, I like doing it, it's a great exercise for me. So I'll be making more, I have a couple in the pipe already, just ready to edit. If you enjoy my personality, you can catch me on twitch.tv/voltage12o, like the letter 2. Every so often, I usually try to stream on Mondays, sometimes Thursdays these days, and on Saturdays where we are live dubbing Virtue's Last Reward, so come check that out as well. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you for another one. Is this how you do an outro? I hope so.